Well, since I've made this a series on my channel now for some reason, starting off with Polnareff, I will now continue on forward into Jojolion with one of my other favorite fights in all of JoJo. Technically speaking, I do like the whole Wonder View arc, but to be in specific here, it is the fight between Toru and Gappy that I hold in such high regard because of how, well, to put it in a layman's terms, so raw. And that comes down to the idea of Wonder View itself, the themes of the fight, and Soft and Let Go Beyond at the very end of Jojolion. So to just jump right into it, I want to talk about Wonder View right off the bat. One of the major reasons why I think this arc works so well and is one of my favorites is because how Wonder View is portrayed / is a overwhelming force within this ending part of Jojolion. Before the actual main conflict between Gappy and Toru is this chase scene between the group and Wonder View where this 89-year-old man keeps on dodging them somehow. And since we know how Wonder View eventually works on later in the part, we know this is the start of their demise as calamities would start knocking into them. At the same time, the Higashikata household would also be facing calamities. On a first read, I don't think you catch this, but on a second read, you definitely do. Wonder View is, not in a power scaling sense, is an omnipresent force within this ending of Jojolion. Not only is he screwing over and heavily injuring Josuke's group, but is also affecting the Higashikatas at the exact same time. And with later explanations thanks to Mamazuku, you come to realize they're not fighting an ordinary stand user or an ordinary stand. They are fighting something much beyond an individual or an entire group of people. They are fighting a fundamental force of the universe, the flow of calamity. If there is a way to hype up or build up your villain through power alone, it's definitely making them something, a part of the universe that ordinary people can't beat or have no power of beating. You make them so grand and large that everything else that tries to stand up to them just seems so minuscule and small that they have no hope of beating due to not having the power or the necessary intelligence to even comprehend what they're fighting. This is shown extremely well with the fact that some people just get instantly clapped when fighting Wonder View and when they finally figure out what they're fighting. An example here being Jobin, of course, getting clapped by a hairspray can, so that's a thing, and Mamazuku Rai finally coming to the conclusion that they're fighting something that controls society itself. And the activation of the stand ability is by simply thinking about trying to chase Toru or Wonder View, putting you inside the flow of calamity. And depending on how hard you chase Wonder View, it can lead to minor injuries, but on the other side of that spectrum, full-on one-shotting you. I think Araki does an extremely good job at creating such a powerful stand from the start to the finish of this arc that really does put weight on the viewer's shoulders and the characters within the actual manga. Because in context, before we get the newly resolved Josuke versus Wonder View, yeah, the early parts of this fight were them just getting absolutely clapped. Like, I'm just gonna flat out state it, they had no idea how to beat this guy or even how to get around him. Everything that was around them went wrong. Things got crashed into them, people got crashed into them, people started dying in front of them to make it more of a headache for them. Everything was literally against them in the beginning of this fight. And to even add insult to injury, before all of that, Toru sets them up to die by pointing them in the right direction of where the head doctor is going, setting them up for all this calamity they're about to hit. There's even this moment between Gappy and Toru before, of course, Toru points out the head doctor to them, where there's this almost dark and light motif between them, showing that one side's good and one side's bad. While there's not anything crazy here in terms of like deep meaning, it's still a really cool way to show off your hero and your villain. The early encounter between Josuke and Toru, Soft and Wet versus Wonder View, there is definitely a feeling of one-sidedness, basically a loss for the group here as Wonder View clears house. None of these guys are able to fight him. Nobody's able to understand him. They bite off so much more than they can actually chew here. They need to retreat. They just can't beat this guy at their current state. And to just bring it back into my perspective as a reader reading this multiple times, I don't think this has ever happened in JoJo's where a main group has to retreat from the main villain to fight him another day. It's always either the villain leaves or the villain doesn't want to actually pursue their group any longer for X, Y, and Z reason. So the fact that a main group is just like, we need to leave now, is just wild to me in the terms of the JoJo landscape. I guess power scaling sense, that's where I want to say where this comes from, but more or less, even in a story sense, a main group running away from a villain is kind of a major thing. It just shows how much of a threat Wonderview and Toru are right now. But technically, they don't actually get away, as we know how the ability actually works, thanks to Mamazuku and Josuke figuring it out, that basically thinking of pursuing it or having the intent to pursue automatically activates the ability from any range, causing calamities to hit into you. Then we get probably one of the more wild things that Wonderview can do. Anything that comes in contact with you that is calamity can hurt you. Literal raindrops, yes, raindrops, something that you don't think that would hurt you, in this instance do hurt you. They basically cause massive damage to both Mamazuku Rai and Josuke. I remember when I first read this back in the day, seeing Josuke get hurt by raindrops was nuts. The power this stand has is probably one of the strongest in the entire franchise, and of course I've covered videos on it explaining why it probably is one of the strongest stands in the franchise, only being second bested by Soft and Wit Go Beyond. There's a point after that even Josuke says, there's no way to beat this guy. There's no way to get close to him whatsoever. He's impossibly and utterly broken. And the only way they got out of that fight to begin with was thanks to the police intervening during the rain encounter, which separates Mamazuku Rai and Josuke from each other, sending Josuke to the hospital, which leads me into the Josuke segment of this video. Up until this point into the fight/arc, Araki has been building up Wonderview a lot. So now he's going to do the opposite. He's now going to build up Josuke in probably the best resolved change within a Joestar, I think, ever. Even personally beating out Johnny at the end of part 7. Heavily injured and near death at the hospital, his mother comes to the rescue. He calls Josuke Yoshikage Kira because, well, that's what she sees in him, which is technically correct as he is half Yoshikage Kira, and has the bright idea of giving him a bit of the little kakaka, so all of his injuries heal. Even now, Wonderview's calamity is still affecting Josuke, but his mom pulls in clutch. But right after that, she soon loses consciousness, leading into Jojolion's best moment ever, or Josuke's best moment at bare minimum, having this self-monologue moment where he doesn't know if Holly actually truly sees what she's seeing right now. She sees Yoshikage Kira, not the current Josuke. And this brings him to tears. Josuke has no memory of this woman, but the fact that she still believes that he is her son in full, it breaks him, but for the better, giving Josuke this new resolve to beat Wonderview and Toru. And then goes on this monologue I absolutely love. My name is Josuke Higashikata, and my memories from when I was born are long gone from this world, and they'll never come back. But even though there's something I'm certain of, I am your son. No matter where I go or whatever I live in, there's something I'm certain of that I can believe in. Mom, I'll save you. I swear it. And then Josuke takes his advice from his mom that he should make Toru and Wonderview do the chasing, not the other way around. And eventually, thanks to some reporter shenanigans, he gets Wonderview back in the hospital. And now Josuke waits in an office chair as the unstoppable force that is Toru and Wonderview come closer to him, making him do the pursuing to Josuke in the most meathead way possible. To express my feelings on what I just told you is that this is the greatest thing I have ever witnessed ever. That's the only way I'm going to explain this now. The fact that Josuke just has this emotional moment with his mother and then it finally clicks with him, I'm going to make this guy follow me and fight me on my terms, is, I want to say manly. That's the word that's coming to mind right now, but it's like, it's so much more than that. It's just him fighting something so stupidly strong, because eventually after this, Mamazuku explains to him like everything in the universe is literally going to be against you because how powerful this guy is. So it's like Josuke is fighting literal everything right now. Anything that can be manipulated by Calamity, he is going to face it against Wonder Review right now on his own terms. It's badass as fuck, man. That's the best way I can describe it. It's raw. It's greatness. Nuanced character writing? Nah, screw that. Watch my MC transform right now, dog. That's the best way I can describe it. I love it. Note for later, right now, as this is currently happening, the Higashikatas are having a moment at their house trying to break their curse, leading into, well, Jobin killing his father, or nearly killing his father. He does end up living, by the way. More or less, that encounter is just supposed to show how the curse of the Higashikatas and the calamity of Wonder Review are more or less the same. That is eventually backed up by Mamazuku and his explanation to a prison inmate about how calamity and karmic retribution and how it works. I think to cut to the chase about how strong he is, Mamazuku says this guy is the calamity and he's a powerful enemy, beyond powerful. I've made videos in the past explaining this guy's insane power, and I have kind of briefly done it in the beginning of this video. More or less, yeah, he's one of the strongest villains in all of JoJo. Like, the build-up that Araki's doing to describe how strong he is not wrong. It's not fluff words. It's not any of that. Like, Araki thinks he's the strongest guy, and Mamazuku's basically is just stating what Araki wants to say, but he's using it in a character way, so it's actually, you know, good for the story. But yeah, like, Wonder Review is nuts. Shortly after that explanation of how strong he is, Araki then eventually kills off Jobin with a hairspray can because Jobin got caught in the flow of calamity. Bye, Jobin. I kinda liked you. Sort of. Remember when everybody thought you were going to be the main villain? Good times. Anyway, we get into the final encounter between Gappy and Wonder Review / Toru. Mamazuku breaks out of prison to join Josuke at the hospital, and before the fight starts, this is where Mamazuku says, hey, you know everything's going to be against you. Like I said previously, with the whole universe is going to be trying to fight you because he's able to control everything that's in the flow of calamity, and the flow of calamity is all about to hit you right now. But Josuke then rebuttals against this statement and says, I have you on my side, and my stand, and it's soap bubbles on my side. I think I'll be fine. The fact that he says this so casually, I love. The fact that he just says, nah, we'll be good. I'm gonna beat him this time. I love it. Beautiful. And then Wonder Review walks into the room and the fight finally starts. Giving a summary of how this fight plays out is very interesting, as I feel like this doesn't actually play out like a regular stand fight. It plays more out like a part 2 Hamon battle versus a Pillarman type fight. As Wonder Review itself doesn't fight in the actual fight, it uses its stand's calamity ability through rock bugs, or rock creatures as they're called, to fight both Mamazuku and Josuke, which is almost kind of a breath of fresh air when it comes to stand fights this far into the franchise. So I like it a lot for that reason, even if they're named pretty goofy. For the most part, of course, Wonder Review is kind of kicking both of their asses thanks to these rock bugs' abilities of asbestos entering their bodies. But thanks to Mamazuku gaining a few flashbacks and being really pissed off at Wonder Review for killing his dad, which that happened apparently, he gets close enough to Wonder Review where Wonder Review is like, this has literally never happened before in my entire life. But still ends up saying, because he is Wonder Review and controls the flow of calamity and is a part of it, he still feels safe even with Mamazuku being this close to him. And Wonder Review is correct, as somehow the flow of calamity manipulates Josuke's bubbles and, well, one-shots the hell out of Mamazuku, killing him. Well, shit. It makes sense, but damn, friendly fire, dog. Jokes aside, this is a pretty serious moment as we lead into this, I'm gonna be honest, this explanation is kind of weird in hindsight looking back at it, because it kind of leads into this conspiracy that Mamazuku Rai might be the Peli, but he somehow tells Josuke that his soap bubbles spin in a certain way that they reach a point of literal zero and have the potential to hit Wonder Review, as they don't exist in this world, so he cannot control them. To a even further extent, not even Josuke can fully control them. While all of that's happening, Toru and Yasuho are having a moment where Toru is explaining to Yasuho that Wonder Review is going to enter its final stage, where if anybody tries to get close to Toru or Wonder Review any further, they're going to be one-shot instantaneously. As at that exact moment, a part of the airplane is going to crash into Yasuho that is fated to happen, because she is the first in line as of right now in the flow of calamity. But even after Toru says that all to her, she still doesn't care and still pursues him even harder, and calls Josuke's sister, Kei, to help him out at the hospital, where she is currently at. And she does successfully help out Josuke in his encounter with Wonder Review, where somehow Wonder Review actually does take damage from Josuke's bubbles, in combination with, born this way, his sister Stan. And after being hit, he tries to make sense of all of it. How can he, a being that controls the logic and reasonings of this world, the logic and flow of calamity itself, be hit by something? This shouldn't happen. And then Kay dies because, well, she's next in the chain of death as she's now entered the flow of calamity. Damn. I really honestly didn't expect that the first time reading this, and even now it's still kind of abrupt why she just ends up dying. I don't know why Araki did her dirty like that. Crazy. Immediately right after that, Toru comes to the conclusion that literally nothing can hit him. It's absolutely impossible. But if a thing that literally doesn't exist were to come in contact with him, could actually physically hurt him. And he realizes Josuke has entered that type of power level now where he literally can make something that doesn't exist and hit him with it. And so, while talking to Yasuho, he calls off the fight against Josuke and tries to remove Wonder Review from that area. And honestly, to give Toru his credit as probably one of the smarter JoJo villains, yeah, this totally makes sense. Why would you stay in a space where somebody can actually physically harm you when you have a stand that's never been harmed ever before in your entire life? Honestly, smart decision. Then we get a further explanation on how Josuke's soft and wet go beyond actually work here. They're a type of bubble that just doesn't exist within real life. They just don't exist. That's more or less the explanation. They spin in such a way they reach absolute zero, so they don't technically exist in our world anymore. This ability is so abstract and powerful that it can have the ability to overcome curses and calamity, the same thing that has befelt Holly and the Higashikata family. And the reason why this ability exists in the first place is because, well, Josuke isn't normal by any means in and of himself. He is the literal fusion of Josefumi Kujo and Yoshikage Kira, having traits of physical features and having the ability to use both of the previous lives' abilities with their stands. So it totally makes sense that Josuke can use both abilities in combination with each other to unlock something new. Just like Josuke, these bubbles don't exist. Josuke shouldn't exist in this world. Josuke is a miracle of, well, fate, if you really want to call it that, or just random luck. Both him and his ability complement each other perfectly, and why I love this fight so much is because of Go Beyond. It adds a extremely nice bow on Josuke as a character, because thanks to this fight, he realizes that he is something that shouldn't exist, but does exist, and because of that, he is this miracle, this asinine hope for everybody around him that there will be a better day to overcome calamity and these curses. And Go Beyond symbolizes that literally. Gappy and Go Beyond transcend the logic of calamities of this world verbatim. But since Gappy is still connected to the actual real world because he is still a physical thing and does exist, he still is manipulated by the flow of logic. So he doesn't actually hit Wonder Review dead on, but he does get pretty close, and it leads to one of my favorite looking panels in all of Jojolion, with him just pointing right in front of Wonder Review, showing that he doesn't care and he will kill him. So Gappy fires another shot, but actually does it in combination with Yasuho's Paisley Park, and actually lands a shot on Toru's physical body, not Wonder Review this time, causing the plane part that was supposed to crash into Yasuho because she was in the front of the line of the death chain to die because of Wonder Review's abilities, and it doesn't happen. Soft and Wet Go Beyond's powers are so busted they're able to overcome fate due to their illogical nature. And then Gappy sets up another attack to actually hit him again, and it lands again, protecting Yasuho from Toru. With that shot landed, Josuke is going to make his way back to the Higashikata household the fastest he can. And while he's doing that, of course, Toru still lives and is still trying to heal himself with the fruit he previously ate, trying to get Yasuho to fuse with him and, heal his wounds. But actually, Kato pulls clutch and actually successfully kills him, but sacrifices herself in the end, breaking the Higashikata curse. So good for her, good for the family. And now with Toru dead and the curse broken, Jojolion reaches a satisfying conclusion. The curse has now been destroyed. The family can now live on normally now. It's a pretty good ending, and eventually we'll end with Josuke and friends all being together with each other. Right? Yeah, no. So apparently, Wonder Review can actually not be killed. Toru can be killed, but Wonder Review can't. Just can't happen. Energy cannot be destroyed. Since Wonder Review is calamity energy, nothing can actually truly kill him. Until Josuke shows up, somehow with the speed of fucking Hermes, and actually successfully delivers the final blow to Wonder Review itself. He destroys calamity energy itself. The curse itself, thanks to Soft and Wet Gobion's ability of not actually existing in this world. That's fucking raw, man. I love it. Peak fiction, dog. While I won't get into the ending of Jojolion, since I've already done that in a different video, I will give some more thoughts on this fight itself and its themes. I truly do like how Araki set up Wonder Review to be this all-encumbering force that can manipulate everything under heaven and earth, more or less being an allegory for bad luck / literal calamity that inflicts people on a day-to-day basis. On the flip side of that, Josuke represents this asinine hope that you realistically shouldn't have in a scenario where it's absolute dread, when you're facing something so much bigger than you that you just shouldn't have hope. But for whatever reason, you still do. You hold out hope for something that will magically happen. That's what Josuke represents. He represents that asinine hope that all of us have that at the end of the day, at the other side of that hill, it will be better. I think this is the main reason why I like this fight so much. It's not necessarily the battle itself, it's what the themes of the battle are that make it so good. It's relatable. Everybody in life faces calamity at some point. When you're on a road to your dreams, you will find something that will hit you really, really hard. Even Wonder Review says it. When you're traveling back home from a long journey, more than likely than not, you will find something at the very end of the road that's gonna kick your ass, that will make or break the journey. And sometimes, if you have that asinine hope within you, you can get over the hill and achieve your dreams. That's the whole point of Jojolion, to break the family curse of the Higashikatas that have been plaguing them for a very long time. They have this journey / this idea at the end of the road of this long journey of this curse affecting them that eventually it will go away. And that successfully does happen. It just took a lot of time and energy from an outside party with their own curses that were affecting their life to do it. But since they were on that road for such a long time and had that hope with them, they beat that curse. It's an allegory for life itself, dog. And I fucking love that. Josuke, in at least a modern sense, is just the indomitable human spirit in character form, if I were to honestly say it. And that's why I really like this fight. There's so much hope and so much tenacity against a force that you really honestly shouldn't be able to beat, but you still do it. You still overcome that hill or wall in your life, and you still beat it. You beat the curse, and you end up having a better life because of it. It's amazing. I love this fight and arc. Well, I think that's all I have to say. So like, comment, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, stay hydrated. See you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen. Deuces.